Hello, Wabash Valley Education Center educators. It is a delight to be working with you today. This session will focus on vocabulary A to Z, the resources, the reports, and the assignments. As we're beginning, think about the questions that you might have about vocabulary A to Z. If you have a specific question, please jot it down and we'll review these at the end of the session. This is a getting started session. So for those of you who are brand new, you'll have enough to get up and running. For those who have used the resources, it will really strengthen your understanding. My name is Paula. I'll be working with you today. I am a Learning A to Z professional learning specialist from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where my background includes classroom teaching at the elementary level and several years of experience as an instructional coach, specifically working with literacy. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Please be as present as you can during the session. There will be opportunities to work within your account. And the best way to do this would be to have two tabs open, one as you view the presentation and another to explore your RAS Plus / vocabulary A to Z site. If you received a product orientation guide, it's a great place to take notes. If you didn't receive one, any paper will be just fine. And once we go live, I'll show you where to find some excellent videos. They're available 24/7 to help you with navigation and features of actually all our programs, but for this session, specifically vocabulary A to Z. We have 3 goals for today's session. You will explore custom lesson options, so how to create your own lessons. You'll learn how to create assignments, how to manage and view those assignments, and lastly, we'll take a look at the student reports that are found in vocabulary A to Z. Now we're going live, so please log in to your account as you typically do. And you can pause the recording so that you have an opportunity to get ready. All right. And then start your recording. Welcome back. Our first goal is to explore custom lessons. And there will be a couple things that we'll be looking at. Your lessons are any lessons that you create, and they'll be saved right in your own account. Shared lessons are lessons that either you can share with a colleague or a colleague can share with you. So as we're working, I want you to think about how that feature, that shared lesson feature, is going to be beneficial. Now I'm going to walk you through the steps, and then we'll come back to your assignment or activity. So I'm going live. Now, the reason I had said before that you could be in RAS Plus or in vocabulary A to Z, because you have both programs, you can navigate right along the navigation bar, and you can easily click on RAS Plus and go into that program. Remember, Raspberry navigation bar, RAS Plus, or your vocabulary A to Z, which will be purple. And that's where we're going to focus today. This is where we're going to create new lessons where we can activate and see and choose from pre-made lessons. And then the custom lesson tab is where your new lessons will live. When we are looking at reports, we'll be looking at manage students. So we're going to start by going to custom lessons. I'll have you watch me first, and then you'll have an opportunity to do some creating on your own. When you click custom lessons, you'll see 3 categories. One category is your lessons. So any lessons you've created will be here. Shared lessons are lessons you can access that others have shared with you, colleagues have shared with you. And if you have created any review lessons, they'll be here. We'll start at the top, your lessons. When it populates, you'll see my lessons that either are not categorized, meaning they don't fall under a specific category that I created, and it would remain here. Now, I want you to think about some categories that might work for you. You can see some of mine. I have a lesson saved under grammar, language arts, math, phonics, Raz Plus books, science, social studies, and weekly spelling. Aesop's Fables is one that I can move into my language arts category so that all of the resources can be filtered and found in whatever filing system will work for you. So I do want you to think of some new categories that you might want to add for your lessons. So I might have a lesson and I'm going to call it geometry, or a new category. Let me see, let me double check my spelling. Geometry. And I'm going to add that category. There's currently no lessons under geometry. There are lessons in some of my other categories. So be thinking about categories that you would want to create. Now it says there are no lessons. I can create a new lesson. Now I can create it right from here, or I can go to new lessons and create a new lesson that way. So be thinking about that. Now watch as I create my lesson. And I'm going to call this lesson two-dimensional shapes. Now I can save it in uncategorized, or I can say, no, I think I want this to go into my math category that I've created. Now to create a new lesson, they'll say enter a word or list of words separated by commas. So you can create, you can just type from a Word doc, copy and paste, or you can look at this as I'm going to do, and I'm going to have my words. I'm going to say, oops, let me get in my text box. I'm going to say circle, triangle. No, they're all each separated by a comma. Square, oval, whoops, oval, and let's see, and triangle. Now I'm just going to use a few words just for demonstration. Once I have my words or my list of words, I click find or go, and now it's going to show me those words I selected. And there's circle, but circle has more than one meaning. So I have to choose the meaning that I want, and I want this meaning. Now, once I've chosen it, there's a check mark. It is on my list. Triangle, word, oh, that's because I misspelled it. Okay, so I'm going to come back up, and they're always going to let you know if you've made an error. Here we go. There's triangle. Select from multiple matches. And there's one definition, and the other was a musical instrument. I want this definition. Square, more than one definition. Choose the one that you want. That is the one I want. And if I scroll back up, they're starting to populate. Oval, the word not found, and I can create that as a new word, and it is a noun, and I would think of my own definition. sentence. And once I have that, I can add that new word. They're asking me to define, to use it in a sentence, etc. And so what I think I might do, and again, misspelled, that's why. Try again. There we go. Here it is. Oval. Add it to my list. And last, again, everybody, I think it's time to put my glasses on. Triangle. Here we go. They'll catch you if you make any mistakes, so that's a good thing. Check from multiple definitions. Here we go. There's my definition of triangle, and I want to add that. So I have circle, triangle, square, oval, and and it looks like I added it twice, which I didn't mean to do. So we're just going to have a short list right now. And this is my list of two-dimensional shapes. I'm going to save my lesson. And now that lesson has been saved in math. So when we go to customize lessons and my lesson, I'll go to math, and there it is, two-dimensional shapes. It's going to give me a choice of removing or renaming, deleting, or stop sharing. So I'm going to just leave that as is. Here's my two-dimensional shapes. They're going to, ask me again, more actions. Do I want to edit? Do I want to move it? And I can move it to another category. Maybe I'd rather have that in my geometry folder, so I can move my lesson. So we always can do some customizing with where we want our lessons to live. I have that math category, and when I click on it, I have number words. Here's my geometry, and I think what I might want to do with that also is move that into math. And then I'll delete. And then I'll delete that geometry category. So it's now going to be sitting in math. So what we're going to be doing, everybody, is going to custom lessons, create a category, create 2 or 3 categories, maybe one that says vocabulary or phonics or spelling, and then go to new lesson and name your lesson, save it in the category that you created, enter your words, and then click Save Lesson. All right, we'll pause the recording while you're doing that task, and I'll review the task with you just very briefly. You'll create a new category for lists that you want to add. You'll create 1 new lesson with 5 words and add it to that category. Once you open the lesson, click Share, and that will be shared with your colleagues. So pause the recording, and this will take you anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to do. Right, welcome back, everyone. I'm curious. I hope that you thought of some great categories and that you started working on your lists of words. We'll go right back into the account. There are some other ways, because this can be sometimes cumbersome to create every list from scratch. There are places to access pre-made lessons. And one of those places is right here. Because you have Raz Plus, you can create lessons right here from Raz Plus level books. And you would just find the level. Say you're looking at a level P. You can filter by fiction or nonfiction. And once you find that book that you want to use, perhaps it's the book about trees, now that will pop up and you have there's the list of words. You're able to copy and customize. And that would be if there are any words that were here you wanted to remove, you could do that. Or if you wanted to add any additional words, you're able to do that. If I like this just as is, I can move this to the category I had saved called Raz Plus Books. And that will now be saved in that area. So we went to custom lessons and my lessons. If I went to Raz Plus Books, we should be seeing the one that we just looked at and saved. I'll have to come back to that. When you're creating a new lesson, one way that we did it was by adding our own words and saving them, but there are a multitude of word lists. So if you were doing and creating your own, you could go right here. If I were looking at math and I'm looking at geometry and I wanted to have a lesson on that, maybe on 3D geometry, I could name my lesson, save it in math, and then start looking at the words I wanted, such as cone or cylinder. So that would be another way and a lot faster when you're creating your list. We come back and we'll go, so those are our custom lessons, anything you share, and when you create review lessons. New lessons can be created right here. Name your lesson, decide where to save it, enter a list of words separated by commas, or go right to the word lists that have been created. I'm going to come back to our custom lessons. Look at the lesson that I had created earlier in math. Let me see, or in geometry, the two-dimensional shapes. And let's look at all the options once you've created a list. I have 4 words on the list. These are all my printable resources that I can download, I can preview, but first I'm going to go to options. And the format is one that you'll choose. Do you want a primary looking format? It's basically same words, it's just a different layout that's more primary friendly, or an intermediate layout. Which of the lesson resources do you want? Would you like the photo cards? I'm sure you would. You can download worksheets, assessments if you wanted, in addition to some activities about nouns. And once you've saved those, you just click done. So you looked at your options first. You can preview these. So you might decide that you don't want all of these many worksheets. They can be downloaded. You'll see vocabulary cards. You'll see many optional worksheets. And these are automatically generated once your list has been created. And you're able with Vocabulary A to Z to create vocabulary lists, spelling lists, or lists focused on phonics skills. Now we want to look at some of our digital resources. So I'll say assign. And I want to assign the two-dimensional shape lesson that I just created. There are 3 different lesson types. There's one called sequenced, and we'll click on the triangle and it will say a sequence lesson would be 4 practice games, one at a time. The students need to complete all the games. That unlocks the quiz, and then they're done. The computer decides which practice games are delivered. There's another option for student selection, and that is students can choose from any of the games. They only have to complete one game and the quiz, and they're done. Third option, intervention. Now, whoops, let me come back to what that was, the student selection. Here's the intervention, and that is really what I think you're going to want to look at. Think of intervention as differentiation. You get to select from the games your students will play. And the games are all for reinforcement and practice. Once students complete all of those games, they take a quiz. Once the quiz is finished, the assignment is done. And then lastly, it's grayed out right here. It's called a preset. And that would mean you're going to always choose a group of games or activities that your students will play. And then once you've assigned a new list, you can go right to presets. So I'm going to start with intervention because I want to choose the games. I am going to save it as a preset, and I'm going to call it vocabulary practice. The next thing is I have to select my games. Now, they're in categories of phonics, spelling, and vocabulary. And it is recommended that you choose all practice games in that same area. So knowing this was vocabulary, I'm choosing all of these from that section. I'd like them to have a practice test. This would be a good indicator of their prior knowledge. I know that my students like some of the games. I'm going to have them do a match it with sentences. I'm going to have them play a game called Hang Mouse. I'm going to have them do a word search. And lastly, a vocabulary test. And those are the activities that I've selected for the preset. Now they're saying save it, and you can choose who to assign it to. I'm going to assign this to my first graders. And that all the first graders on my list just got that assignment. I'm going to start that today is the first day they'll see this, and they have 10 days to complete this. I can choose the voice, either British, Australian, or American, and assign. And this has now been assigned to 17 students. If you want to preview, you have an opportunity to see what it looks like when they'll log in, and they'll first see their practice vocabulary test. Once that's completed, it unlocks all of the other activities. Everything has an audio feature.
Circle, square, triangle, oval.
All right. So there's a lot that you're able to do either with print or digital or both. Let's go back to your assignment and see what that will be. You're going to think about those options for instruction, look at the different assignment types, and create a digital assignment. So select the lesson or one of your lessons that you've created and create an intervention assignment for either one area of focus, either phonics, spelling, or vocabulary, and make sure you would know how to assign that to a group of students or a whole class of students, or even an individual or two. Pause the recording while you work. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope that you explored, had an opportunity to look at all the printable resources that you can generate, and how you would assign those digital resources for your students. Think about the benefit of creating a preset, and it doesn't mean you have to use it every time, but it is a nice option. Let's just review, because it didn't look like the book I had looked at previously got saved. If you're looking at pre-made lessons from Raz Plus Books, and you would go to the level that you're looking at, I'm going to look at, let's say, a level M. We're looking at animal defenses. Here's all, again, these are the words that were listed. I can download the printable resources. I can look at the vocabulary lesson that would accompany this, the vocabulary words, a summary of the book. That was animal defenses. So they're giving me really a lot of good information. Coming back to my vocabulary lesson. And now they're going to say, do you want to customize? Yes, you do. And so you might want to add or subtract other words to this list of words. You're going to save it. So you might want to add a category that says Raz Plus Books, and then save your lesson. And now when I come into my custom lessons and I look at my Raz Plus Books, there's about trees that I looked at previously, animals from a few months ago, and animal defenses that I just chose today. Now you might decide that you'd rather move one of these books and save it under a science category, perfectly up to you. And if you wanted to share, you could click share. And now that category, Raz Plus Books, has been shared with colleagues. If I wanted to look at shared lessons from my colleagues, I would just click on shared lessons. These are my colleagues. Here is my colleague, Anne, and I can see what word list she's created. And if I want to use that, it's ready to go. Okay, so that's a really nice benefit of shared lessons. Before we move into our last goal, and that was to look at reports, let's go to the bottom of the page. There's instructional support. I had mentioned this previously. This is where you'll find some great professional development videos to help you get started with vocabulary A to Z, a place to sign up for live webinars, to view recorded webinars. Under instructional tools, if you want a review of how to create an assignment or manage your lessons, this is where you'll want to come for that review. And right here, preview interactivities. With more than 40 games, it's hard to know which ones you want to assign to your students. So what's really nice about it, there is a word list. It's a sample word list, but you could look at the various phonics games and just see what they're like. You could go to spelling, and again, what are the games for spelling practice? And lastly, what are the games that you would choose or could choose for vocabulary? So you always have a preview on your account with the list you've made, but this is a nice place to just view all the games. Right, we're going to look at our last goal. And our last goal was to look at the reports. And we're going to spend just a few minutes finding those reports specific to vocabulary A to Z. We'll look at the different types of reports, think about which ones will be most beneficial and which reports might be brand new for you. So I'm back in my vocabulary A to Z account. New lesson, where you would create a lesson from scratch or from word lists. Pre-made lessons are those lovely lessons that are already made and ready to go from the Raz Plus level books, as well as from Raz Plus content area books. Custom lessons, your lessons, anything that you've shared or a colleague has shared with you. We'll move over to manage students. I'm going to go to my reports. And this should generate a list of reports that I can access. And there's a few different kinds. So I want to first go to product. And when it drops down, you'll be able to choose between Raz Plus or vocabulary A to Z. There are only two kinds of activities I can view. I can either view interactivities, and those would be the games students have played, or I can view their quizzes. So those are two different activity types we can view in vocabulary A to Z. Now I can look, I had one student pulled up, that was Eddie, but I could look at all my students. I could look at just my homeroom students. I could look at just what my first graders are doing or my fourth graders. So you have some options. So I'm going to, again, vocabulary A to Z. I want to look at, let's just say my first graders. I'm going to look at, a range of dates. And now I can see which students have some vocabulary assignments. So here's Emily. I can see the scores on her different assignments. She has a variety. She had a phonics test, vocabulary test, a spelling test. So she been assigned more than one type of work or more than one type of assignment. It says she missed a skill. I can go right to her quiz and see what she missed. I can see what the correct answer is and the answer she selected. So I'm always able to just take a peek at what she's done, what my students have worked on. I can look at all of the games and interactivities that she's completed, and she's completed, a variety, everything that had been assigned to her. So vocabulary A to Z is where you want to go. You could look at all their activities. You can, again, look at your homeroom. You could look at any of the groups you've created within your account. Here is Eddie. Eddie is a fourth grader. I'm looking at his vocabulary quizzes. I can see which skills he's missed, and I can see the interactivities that he's done. So I want you for just a couple minutes to pause the recording to go into your account. Of course, the longer students have been working within vocabulary A to Z, the more data will be generated. If they're just getting started, you likely have no data or very little, but you'll want to go to reports. You'll go to your product, look at either quizzes or interactivities or all, and then you can choose your student or group of students. So pause the recording and just take a peek in student management at your reports, specifically for vocabulary A to Z. All right, so everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a chance to view and to look at the different types of reports that you're able to generate with vocabulary A to Z. So let's review. Let's come back and just review what we've worked on today. We had 3 goals. One was to explore custom lesson options, to make sure you know how to create an assignment, how you could save that assignment as a preset, and how to navigate student reports. So please look at that note you jotted down at the beginning of our session. I asked you, what were you hoping to learn in today's session? So I'm definitely hoping that your understanding was deepened and that you did learn more about this great program. And, if there was anything that hadn't been answered, please reach out to Kirsten please reach out to Kirsten and she will get back to me and ask me any questions you might have. Our Learning A to Z mission statement is in front of you. Inspire curiosity, ensure comprehension, and instill the joy of learning for elementary students. That's what we hope for all of your students. Please make note of the following, the phone number and email for customer support. And Learning A to Z thanks you. And I thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining me. And really, I hope you enjoy and your students enjoy working with Vocabulary A to Z.